it'll be 16 years, I got into the iGaming market with my first client, Poker Stars. I said, the Isle of Man, where is that? This is how much I've learned in life. This is 15, 16 years ago. I didn't even know about the Isle of Man. I said to Esai in that office that day in the Isle of Man, 2009, Esai, you and Caesars are paying $40 million a year each for lobbying efforts in Washington for multiple years. You don't have anything to show for it. And that's not a criticism, that's a fact. I said, give me 2 years, pay me 10% of that. I'll get iGaming started in America. Esai is a great reason why we have iGaming in America in 7 states plus poker only in Nevada. A lot of people like to give me credit for it. I think I deserve a little bit of credit, but he was the man with the capital and the push that allowed me to do what I do. What my job is, which is important, and what a lot of people throughout the world outside of the US don't understand is this. Government affairs lobbying is very important in the industry, no matter where you are, but it's different in each country. Just any lawyer can't be your lobbyist. You got to have relationships, respect, credibility, background experience. The industry is stuck right now. Instead of moving things forward positive way, they're now working on banning sweepstakes. They're trying to ban predictive markets. Look at what's happening now. Taxes are going up, regulations are going up, more RG tools. All of that's happening for one reason. The industry blames the politicians. I blame us. We need to do a better job to tell our story. We create jobs, we're legal, we pay taxes, and we provide innovation, okay? Well, that's a great story that nobody knows. Before you can advocate, you have to educate. You have to educate people on what the product is, what the solutions are, what the services are, what the benefits are, and what some of the negatives are. We need to crack down on the black market. The black market is at least 2 times the size of the legal market in the US, and the reason for that is we only have a couple of states that have iGaming, number one. Number two, it's so expensive to operate here. The risks and the odds are better in the black market because the legal market pays taxes and licensing and compliance and all that. The responsible gaming space doesn't exist in the black market. Consumer protection doesn't exist. You're lucky you get paid. If it was not for iGaming during COVID, all the casinos in Atlantic City would have shut. I think federal regulation is a mistake. It's got to be by a state by state. That's the way to do it, because one state advances something, other states will then look at it, educate, and follow, and it's a better system. In Europe, gambling and betting and punting has been going on for hundreds of years. It's all relatively new in America. I don't think the government should tell me what I can afford, right? That's my business. I do think they have a responsibility to help educate people on what's good and bad.
Hello everyone, this is Faruk and welcome to Revpanda Live. This year we have hit 30 episodes and I want to kick off today's show with a big thank you to every single one of you for your amazing support. Today's episode is a big one. We'll discuss one of the most complex and competitive markets in the world. You guessed it, the United States iGaming market. And joining me is someone who doesn't just understand the US market, he helped shape it. Everyone, please welcome Bill Pascrell III, aka BP3. If you have been in the market for a while, you have probably heard his name, read about his work, or seen him on stage at a major iGaming event. He's a partner and strategic advisor at PPAG, a key figure in the repeal of PASPA, and widely known as a fixer, expeditor, problem solver for iGaming companies across the US and beyond. Bill, it's an honor to have you on the show. How is everything over there in New Jersey?
Faruk, thank you very much for having me. Jersey's doing great. The weather's beautiful. I'm actually right now working from my beach house on Long Beach Island, which is a 19-mile barrier island right on the Atlantic Ocean. And it's great because I could get to the airport, I could get to Atlantic City, I could get to Philadelphia. It's very easy, and it makes me happy to be here. So thank you for having me on Revpanda Live podcast. I'm looking forward to it very much.
Fantastic. I'm a bit jealous because here in Europe, in the north especially, we still don't have summer weather. So it's very good that you're enjoying and working from a beautiful part of the country and you have easy access to anywhere. So very good to hear. By the way, how were the July 4th celebrations last week?
Well, July 4th is very special in many regards because it's when we became independent. It's our Independence Day. It's a beautiful ceremony, no politics, parades, fireworks, barbecue, beach. What could not be liked more than that? And my daughter and my wife, I have 4 kids, but my youngest child is 10. And we just spent the whole weekend on the beach. I was resting up from a very busy 6 months to start the year, 5 months, I guess. Thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be here. It was so wonderful to be able to do a quick interview with you when I was in Prague.
Yes. It was lovely, and we had, I think, even on the first day, about like 800 views, which is really not very usual in a niche like iGaming. So thank you for sharing your insight with us, and I'm very happy that you had some time finally to rest during these, holidays. And I hope this summer will be a good one for you as well. And we're all looking forward to seeing you in Europe at the next iGaming event will be coming over. Everyone, if you're an iGaming professional looking to enter the US market or you're already operating in this market, you'll want to stick around for this episode. So grab your coffee like Bill and myself, get comfortable, and let's kick things off with some wise words from BP3 himself. Bill, I think most of our listeners today they recognize you from your extensive experience in state, federal, and global public affairs, particularly in the iGaming industry. As I was telling earlier, we know you as a fixer, expeditor, and problem solver. But how do you describe yourself and your role with your own words?
Yeah, it's interesting, Faruk. Many years ago, I had a friend, not a client, come up to me when I was in London and said, Bill, like everybody knows your name, but not everybody knows what you do. So I am at the baseline, Faruk, a lawyer, but I don't like to be referred to as a lawyer because a lot of people, when you say lawyer, they roll their eyes. Oh my God. So what I typically do is advisory services, strategic advice, regulatory affairs, licensing, immigration, which is a big issue, particularly now with the new administration in Washington. So I do a panoply of things. I no longer do litigation. If you want contracts done, I have lawyers in my arsenal because I try to do more value added work than just strictly contractual M&A work. And I'm blessed. I started out in the brick and mortar casino industry, representing casinos in Vegas, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. And then about 15 years ago, it'll be 16 years, I got into the iGaming market with my first client, PokerStars.
Amazing. I'm happy that you actually gave away some of the, tough part of your daily work to your associates, and you can actually focus on the matters that you enjoy a lot. And I really hear that from you whenever we meet and discuss. Bill, I would like to also mention about your father, Congressman Bill Pascrell Jr. He was a significant influence on yourself as well. How did his political career and values shape your own path into lobbying, politics, and public affairs?
So my father was not a lawyer. My father's parents, my grandfather and grandmother, William Pascrell Sr. and Rafi Pascrell, formerly Rafi Lafredo, both from Italy. They moved to the US when they were children during the war. My father was a teacher, first a high school teacher, then a college professor. And my dad was a good man. He wasn't left or right. He was kind of straight up in the middle, plain talk, straight talk, integrity. He shaped my career because he instilled in me values, hard work. We wake up early every day and we work. And, you know, maybe we should take more breaks. I was thrilled to have 3 days for the holiday, but my dad didn't take many vacations. A, he couldn't afford it, and B, he loved his work. So my dad got into politics many, many years ago, first on a school board. He was the president of the Paterson School Board, which is a large city in New Jersey. Then he ran for the legislature in the state of New Jersey, made it all the way up to minority leader. Then he ran for mayor of Paterson, the third largest city in the state. And then he was mayor for 8 years. And then in 1994, he ran for Congress. They asked him to run in 90 and 92, but he had just gotten reelected as mayor. My dad was in Congress for 30 years. He was on the Ways and Means Committee, which is the most powerful committee. And my dad, it's going to be a year ago, Faruk, and I'm okay. He was my best friend. But on July 14th of last year, they had just broke for session. They were in the week of July 9th. And people said, my God, this 87-year-old, soon to be 88-year-old man's running around, healthy, energetic. And he got a bit of an infection from a new pair of shoes my brother got him. And he checked himself into the hospital. And 6 weeks later, he passed. It was unforeseen, but he's an inspiration to me. My dad was not a gambling attorney. He wasn't an attorney at all. He loved to play at casinos, but he's done me well because he taught me well.
Amazing. I'm very happy that you have got such an example as your father. And I believe that also, Bill, the previous generation, they have been great examples for us, like with their hardworking and everything. So this is how I think we can remember your father, and this is actually a good time to commemorate such people that has important roles in our life.
That's right.
Bill, and yeah, as you were saying, he liked playing or gambling, as you were saying. I think it's a state of mind in these days. I've been to Las Vegas, I think about like 9 or 10 times. So yeah, I saw the spirit.
Yeah, it's amazing, Faruk. I never realized how recognized my dad was until his death. Now, I knew he was out there and people knew him, but 7,000 people came to the funeral, and the cathedral, St. John's Cathedral, only holds 2,500. So they had jumbotrons. And I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners, particularly in the industry, know of CBS News. Well, they honored him by CBS National News broadcasting the entire funeral. And it was quite an incident. I love to speak, as you know, Faruk. As we say in America, BP3 can talk chrome off a trailer hitch, right? I love to talk, but it was the most difficult speech I ever had to give. And I kept writing it, and I don't like to read. So what I did is I decided to keep my speech in the pew of the cathedral when the cardinal called me up. And I spoke from the heart, 10 minutes. And what I wanted to leave everybody is, you are here because you respect my dad. I thank you for that. From, the senators, the governors, the U.S. senators, the Congress people, the Attorney General, all that were there, thank you, friends and family. But the beautiful stories of homeless people and drug addicts who my dad helped over life, that are the unsung stories, were great. But my best way to share how important my dad was to me, he wasn't just my dad, he was my best friend. And I spoke to my dad, whether I was in Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Poland, London, Brazil, or the US, every morning we spoke. And if I didn't call him by 6 a.m., by 6:05, he was calling me. And so I missed that. So I speak to him in my own way spiritually, but that's the impact he has on me. I lost my best friend.
I'm actually very happy that this relationship is such a deep relationship, as you call him as best friend. And also I hear from you he touched many lives, not only those, as you say, congressmen, mayors and so on, but just ordinary people as well. So that's really incredible story. Thank you for sharing all this with us, Bill. I very much appreciate.
My
If you
pleasure.
like, we can turn the wheel a little bit to the iGaming market, especially in the US. And I
Sure.
think you're the best person in my network to ask this question. How would you describe the current state of the iGaming market in the US now?
Yeah, Faruk, you're really good at interviewing because you allow me to hit my sweet spots. When I was first approached by PokerStars through a friend of mine, Joe Brennan, who's a famous person in the industry, Joe's a dear friend, and Joe's brought me a lot of business. I knew nothing about iGaming. When PokerStars reached out to me, they said, Bill, did you know your father is the co-sponsor of the iGaming bill in Congress? I said, I did not know that. They said, well, what do you think the chances of that bill passing are? I said, zero. Not because my dad isn't good at what he does. I know why my dad did this as I did research. He did it as a favor to a constituent of his who was in the industry. But the problem is that in order to get a bill passed, okay, you have to have both sides of the aisle. You have to be able to move. And at the time, in the early 2000s, that wasn't going to be the case. There was a Republican president. The legislature was Republican. Barney Frank, the former congressman from Massachusetts, who was the first openly gay congressman, was the prime sponsor of the bill. My dad was the co-sponsor. But they weren't able to get any hearings. They didn't have a good lobbying effort. So I said to Isai Scheinberg, the founder of PokerStars, what a great man and a great story. When he first spoke to me on the phone, he said, I need you to come to the Isle of Man and meet with me. I said, the Isle of Man, where is that? This is how much I've learned in life. This is 15, 16 years ago. I didn't even know about the Isle of Man. Had no idea. I barely knew about Gibraltar and Curacao, right? I didn't know anything about the Isle of Man. So I flew there and got picked up in a black limousine at the airport. It's a very small island. And I went to his conference room, and I'm Roman Catholic. I'm Roman Catholic. My cross fell out of my shirt. I had an open collared shirt. And Isai looked at me like, he was Dracula almost, right? He's like, oh my God. I said, is everything okay? He goes, oh, Bill, I thought you were a part of the tribe. I didn't know you were a Goya, meaning non-Jew, right? He said, that's okay. You're going to be our Goy boy. And we hit it off from then. He respected me because I'm no bullshit. I'm straight up. You don't always like what I have to say, but I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm here to help you get something accomplished. I said to Isai in that office that day in the Isle of Man, 2009, Isai, you and Caesars are paying $40 million a year each for lobbying efforts in Washington for multiple years. You don't have anything to show for it. And that's not a criticism, that's a fact. I said, give me 2 years, pay me 10% of that. I'll get iGaming started in America. We got Jersey done, and then soon thereafter, we got Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Michigan, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vegas. But the problem is that Isai sort of went away when he sold to Amaya. Isai is a great reason why we have iGaming in America in 7 states plus poker only in Nevada. Now, a lot of people like to give me credit for it. I think I deserve a little bit of credit, but he was the man with the capital and the push that allowed me to do what I do. What my job is, which is important, and what a lot of people throughout the world outside of the US don't understand is this. Government affairs lobbying is very important in the industry, no matter where you are. But it's different in each country. The politics of Poland is very different than the politics of Italy, which is very different from the politics in the UK, and so on and so forth. Number two, just any lawyer can't be your lobbyist. You got to have relationships, respect, credibility, background, experience. I see lawyers being hired by particularly European, Latam, Oceania companies to come into the US that know nothing about gaming. And so they're learning on somebody else's dime. And all I say moving forward is, if you don't use me, that's okay. There's other qualified people. Ask this question. What have you accomplished? Ask the question to the person you're hiring. The industry is stuck right now. Instead of moving things forward vertically in a positive way, they're now working on banning sweepstakes. They're trying to ban predictive markets like Robinhood and Kalshi and Crypto.com. Like, that's stupid, right? Promote your market, move your market. Look at what's happening now. Taxes are going up. Regulations are going up. More RG tools. All of that's happening for one reason. The industry blames the politicians. I am a part of the industry. I blame us. We need to do a better job to tell our story. We create jobs. We're legal.
Yeah.
We pay taxes. Okay. And we provide innovation. Okay. That's a great story that nobody knows. And so, look, in terms of sports betting, we're in, 38 states now, 39 states, right? Some online, most online, some only retail. iGaming, we're only in 7 states. So there's a reason for that. I think that things are going to change, but it's going to take time. And what I encourage, I represent a couple of Polish companies, one of which I met them at the Hipster event 3 years ago, Gaming, out of Poland. It's a great company. They're really good, but they're like, Bill, we need help getting licensed. So they're a B2B company. They make content for slots. Like, they have Snoop Dogg slots, which everybody loves. They're now growing and scaling. But what I loved about it is I explained to them, I have a little bit of a connection to Poland. My brother, Glenn, married a Polish woman, Magdalena Buczek, from Gdansk, right? And when my parents met her parents, I wasn't there, but my brother was like, it was wonderful. They didn't speak any English. Our parents don't speak any Polish, but they got along. They had a drink, they had food, they laughed. Magdalena was translating. I mean, that's the beauty of the world, right? Coming together. As life goes on, the universe does get smaller, right? And the problem is that a lot of, particularly European companies, come across, they Google big law firms. Those firms are charging them astronomical money, and they've never been involved in gaming. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully that'll change in time. But hey, I'm 60 years old now, so I don't have much longer. Maybe another 20 years.
By the way, I wanted to stop you over there when you were talking about your brother and wife. Her name is Magdalena. My wife's name is Magdalena. And you mentioned about Gdansk. We live in Gdansk. So incredible similarities. So I would love to pay a visit when I'm in the States and just meet, and the wives can meet as well. So that's a great story.
Anytime you come over, you just let us know, and we will make sure we get together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for invitation. And also, I would like to have a shout out for Marina from Gaming. She's amazing. Anytime we go to events, we always have an interview with her as well. So the brand is growing like astronomically. We can see that. So congratulations on this fantastic work for Marina and her team as well. And you were saying that one of the main things that we need to ask, what have you achieved? So that's actually a good question to get started. And I was earlier telling about yourself. as a problem solver, right? So that's how I wanted to introduce you. And I'm very curious, like listening all the, let's say, background story that you have got and many years you spent in the industry, how has the nature of the problems you are asked to solve for those brands that you are working with evolved?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me say one quick snippet about Marina, who I respect immensely. I love representing women owned companies. Marina is the CEO. I represent several, like a company out of Manchester, UK called NeoSurf in the gaming space. All women, right? Wonderful. The reason I like that is because when I joined the industry 30 plus years ago, when I was doing just casino work, brick and mortar, there were no women. It was all guys that looked like me. So kudos to her. She's a strong, vibrant woman, and I respect her immensely, and I wish them well. The issues have evolved to a degree because when I was first brought in to do the repeal of PASPA, okay, where everybody thought I was a joke, and when I was brought in to bring in iGaming, and I lost 24 casinos because they were against it, then we had to educate them. So one thing hasn't changed. Before you can advocate, you have to educate. You have to educate people on what the product is, what the solutions are, what the services are, what the benefits are, and what some of the negatives are. You have to put those out on the table. Then you can begin to advocate. And the biggest point that the industry still doesn't understand, and David Reebok and I, the former regulator in New Jersey, talk about it all the time. Brazil is now doing this. America needs to do it, which is go after the black market by using technology companies like geolocation companies, companies like Continent 8, the data server companies with cybersecurity. We need to crack down on the black market. The black market is at least 2 times the size of the legal market in the US. And the reason for that is we only have a couple of states that have iGaming, number one. Number two, it's so expensive to operate here. The risks and the odds are better in the black market, okay, than they are in the legal market. Yeah. Because the legal market pays taxes and licensing and compliance and all that. The other thing is the responsible gaming space doesn't exist in the black market. Caring for your customer, consumer protection doesn't exist. You're lucky you get paid, right? There are some things which are happening, but I believe one of the biggest ways we can move forward is explaining to state politicians that don't yet have iGaming. Do you realize that all your citizens are doing it anyway? They're just doing it in the black market. They don't care whether you legalize it or not. You should care, so you create legitimate jobs, licensed entities that aren't money laundering, and you crack down on the black market. So one of the ideas I'm promoting now, not back when I started, because I've learned, is any regulator in America that licenses operators in iGaming, sports betting, or online sports betting, if they have ancillary service providers like affiliates, KYC, age verification, geolocationing, data centers, those entities cannot also serve the black market. You have to certify that you're not in the black market in order to continue to operate with a licensed entity. That will have a big impact because the black market can't afford to open up their own data centers. They need to use other entities. So that's the evolution that's been happening. And I believe that soon enough, because tax rates are starting to increase, the operators are going to be forced to thinking outside the box.
Absolutely. And as citizens, we like to think that government actually cares about us and they care about the player safety and so on. I want to think this way. But what I see is actually they are after the taxation. Of course, the tax needs to be there and licensing and everything else. So as you were saying, it is already being done by citizens. So why not just having it in a legal way and improving the communication between the market and the regulators, and having it in a way that is more responsible, as you were saying, and companies will do what they need to do, which is like taxation, for instance, and keeping things in order. So that's a very good way to say. And Brazil, I'm watching Brazil very closely, Bill, and we actually had an amazing session here at Revpanda Live with some market experts. I will just drop the link to this particular podcast session. And they are doing things right, and they are learning from different markets. And I believe that they might be really ahead right now when it comes to all regulations and everything in the world when it comes to iGaming.
It's a big market. It's going to be a very profitable market. There are certain things that people don't like, but that's the case everywhere, right? Local culture. Yeah. When you're working in a new jurisdiction, you cannot just drop in like a parachute in somebody like me. You have to have somebody that has local knowledge, localization, personalization, customization. Brazil is a very large country. And the interesting thing about America is what people oftentimes don't understand is there are parts of the US which don't have any casinos and which look at gambling in casinos as bad, but sports betting is okay. They see it as different, right? Betting on a sport versus gambling, right, is different. And so the sports betting industry has done far better at scaling than the iGaming industry. But we have some strategies to turn that around. And I think it's a multi-tiered strategy. Number one, making sure that every politician in a state you're working in understands that problem gambling, whether you're in America, Poland, Australia, wherever, is about 1% to 2% of the population. Just like alcoholism, okay, or drug addiction. It's not everybody, it's not majority, it's 1% to 2%. And the best way to impact that 1% to 2% is first, regulate the industry so you can monitor. iGaming you can't monitor in a brick and mortar casino, you can monitor iGaming. Every transaction you can monitor. Number two, have preventative mechanisms in place where you're educating children at an early age on the good, the bad, and the ugly of gambling, right? There's a good part about it. It's entertainment, but it should not be used as a coping mechanism or a way to make a living, right? So we don't have any high school in America that educates on gambling, but they educate on sex, drugs, and alcohol. That's stupid. So we're now starting to move legislation in multiple states to provide funding for education at the lowest level in the high school. And companies like a client of mine, IC360, which has integrity monitoring, sports education, prohibit, where they prohibit certain players in the collegiate world from betting on sport, which is illegal. They have a great vertical, and hopefully, because sports betting operators don't always want to pay for this, governments will pay for it to show they want to protect the customer.
Yeah, we can also witness that sports betting is growing really rapidly by just looking at the service providers working with them. So even those B2B service providers are also, like having more space in the market and revenues from the cake, let's say. So this is very much something that we witness. And talking about all the regulations and everything, Bill, maybe I can ask you, like, let's say if you had the opportunity to redesign the US regulatory approach for iGaming from scratch, it can be state by state or federal, what would your ideal framework look like for long-term benefits for players, operators, and of course the regulators?
If you don't mind, I want to tell a story.
Go ahead.
Met two people from Caesars. They were their in-house lobbyists, David Satz and Joe Tyrell. And David Satz and my father were very, very close. David Satz's father was a lawyer representing many casinos, brick and mortar, before iGaming. And when I was starting to move the iGaming legislation in New Jersey, they sat down with me and they asked me to wait 1 year, give them 1 year. So I went back to my client and Esai, and I said, Esai, they want me to hold off. They have a lot of money. I don't want to create more issues for you. What do you think? He goes, Bill, we have to get something out of it. I understand. I went back. I said, look, you don't get a year, you get 9 months because it was March. I said, but by the end of this year, if you don't move federal legislation, because that's the route they were going, they were working with my dad. I said, if you don't get it done, then I'm going full bore and you have to back off. Well, I was right. They were wrong. They didn't get it done. But it cost us 9 months. But in that 9 months, what I did was the Governor Chris Christie, and I started to meet with the casinos in Atlantic City. At the time, there were 12 casinos. Listen to this. Christie said to me, Bill, you're lucky as a duck. I said, why? He said, can you imagine if we got this bill passed a year ago, they would blame you and me for the casinos that shut down. Because in that 9 months, 3 casinos shut in Atlantic City, having nothing to do with iGaming, right? Having to do with their own missed operations, I'll call it, or flawed operations. The next year we passed iGaming, and as you know very well, because this is in your bone marrow, if it was not for iGaming during COVID, all the casinos in Atlantic City would have shut. It kept them alive because we negotiated a partnership, which is not like it is in Europe, where if you want a license, you have to become a skin of one of the casinos. So the casino gets a rev share. You operate as a partner of the casino. You make $100, you give the casino $20, you keep the rest. That's been a good relationship. Now we have over 40 different iGaming companies just in casino and poker in New Jersey. Live dealer is exploding in a good way. On the sports betting side, we did the same thing. Each casino has 3 skins, right? So we have over 30 sports betting operators of different magnitudes. So I think the answer to your question after that long story, I think federal regulation is a mistake. The federal government, not because of Trump, period, last year, the year before, 10 years ago, is become dysfunctional. Congress can't get anything going. The president has trouble, right? It's not perfect, but the federal government has never regulated gaming, nor should they regulate gaming. It's got to be by a state by state. That's the way to do it, because one state advances something, other states will then look at it, educate, and follow. And it's a better system. Yes, it's more expensive. And all the operators, all they talk about is, wow, hopefully someday we can get federal regulation. But I don't think that would be a good thing. I really don't. I do a lot of work with the federal government. It's become dysfunctional. What I like to say, so people remember, the federal government could not run a one-car funeral.
Well, I think what you were saying about learning curve between the states, right? So, one state can introduce something and the other state can learn. I feel like we have got this running in Europe, because Germany introduces something and then Netherlands, they say, okay, you know what, they did it, but it is not really, the case. Let us improve it. And they just launch a little bit of a different framework. So when it comes to their regulations. So I think that is a really fantastic suggestion. And as we speak about Europe, and I know earlier you also mentioned about cultural nuances, personalization, localization, and everything else. Maybe I can ask you, about the Europe and US when it comes to comparison of these two markets. Obviously, beyond the legal framework, right? What are the most significant cultural or operational differences that European brands often overlook when trying to establish themselves in the US market?
Yeah. So one quick snippet. America and American government was created as a democracy, right? A free, independent country with democratic rule. The states have certain rights under a constitution. That's why every state has their own governor and legislature. And the states are the crucible for experimentation. Okay. When the states do something, one or two or three states, the other states can join in, or the federal government can decide to join in, right? And each state has Congress people and senators that represent them in Washington and their interests. One of the big things that European particularly, but it applies to like Australia and Singapore, Malaysia, LATAM, New Zealand, is they look at the US as one monolithic entity. The people in California are different than the people in New York or Texas or Florida or Iowa. Each state has its own culture. So, you know, in Europe, gambling and betting and punting has been going on for hundreds of years. It's all relatively new in America, right? Like 70 years ago, Vegas started 80 years ago, right? And then Atlantic City came, and then other. So we're in our infancy, our nascent form. And the other thing is, you also have to understand that religion still plays a role in America, whether you're Jewish or Baptist, Catholic or Protestant, whatever. You have different ways of looking at life. The Catholic Church has bingo, right? It has bingo. You go to the church on a Saturday night and you play bingo to make a few dollars, right? So each culture, you have to understand, is very, very different. The South, which we call the Bible Belt, operates differently than the North or the West Coast. It's very different. And not only are there differences amongst regions, but there are differences in one state to another state. And so that continues to evolve. We're not evolving to be one people. We're evolving to respect diversity and inclusion.
And we're coming back here again, what you were suggesting earlier, like these regulations, they need to be actually state by state. And the whole, like a big picture of federal regulation is just a mistake. So again, this is coming back to the same point where you were mentioning earlier in the previous question.
Yeah, Congress just passed last Wednesday what's called the Big Beautiful Bill. Okay, everybody's heard about it across the globe.
Yeah.
And my party, because I'm a Democrat, I'm not a Trump guy or a Republican, but I respect the other side of the aisle. They're making major cuts to government, like Medicare and Medicaid, which help the elderly and the poor. But what I'm trying to explain to my friends in the Democratic Party is all you're doing is saying what you're against. Trump is bad because it is. Trump is bad. By the way, Trump's invasion of Iran was perfect. And yet my party can't accept that and say, good job, Mr. President. I say, good job, Mr. President, even though I disagree with him. How do you have credibility if everything he does is wrong? Nobody, even a clock that's broken, is right twice a day, right? So it's funny. So in the Medicare industry, there is massive fraud and abuse. The president is trying to scale that back. The Democrats are just saying, oh, you're going to hurt poor people. Yeah, but we have to have a better conversation about the way systems run. They're not running well. There should not be waste, fraud, and abuse. Let's attack that. Let's not hurt the poor. Let's not hurt the elderly, but let's make a more efficient system. How can you not have an efficient system, okay, in this day and age? And so I think there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of this, but the problem is, in the meantime, American people are growing to be disillusioned about institutions. The church, the Supreme Court, the Congress, the White House. We're just like fed up with everything, right? And that's not good either. So I say, I don't want to hear what you're against. I want to know what you're for, what you're going to do, what you're going to promote. And then maybe there'll be a better conversation and stop the personal attacks.
I love how you say it. So just don't tell me what you're against. Tell me what you will do about the problem. So that's really fantastic. By the way, Bill, I think we need a round two for American politics. American government is printing money and more and more. So this is like badly affecting your currency as well. So a lot of things. But maybe the good part is as we have more money printing coming over with the big, beautiful bill, it may flow into iGaming as well, so it can help industry grow a little bit maybe in this space too. Bill, how about we talk about the European iGaming brands, the model that we have over here? Do you think that US have something to borrow from European markets, the way we approach to iGaming markets?
Yeah, I do. I provided the solution, which isn't perfect. No solution is perfect. No solution. But I provided the solution to allow the politicians to vote for iGaming by tethering the online with the offline, right? That doesn't exist in Europe. And so at some point in time, we have to revisit that because these iGaming operators are spending massive money and they have to kick some of that money back just because they're collaborating with the casino, right? That's one issue that needs some fixing. One of the things I don't agree with a lot of European um, jurisdictions, particularly like in the Netherlands and Denmark, that area,
Yeah.
is affordability checks, right? As an American, I don't think the government should tell me what I can afford, right? That's my business. I do think they have a responsibility to help educate people on what's good and bad and what can be harmful, and also providing information on if you are having a gambling problem, where to go. Okay. Not just the 1-800 number that we all talk about, but I represent a company purely in the therapeutic space in the gambling industry called Birch's Health. It's blowing through the roof in terms of scale and revenue. Elliot Rappaport, the founder of Birch's Health, is providing, in collaboration with prevention tools, is providing therapeutics where you can go to a clinic or you can do a virtual visit to help you manage your problem gambling and to help you understand that it's a problem that if you don't manage can become even more serious and problematic. Financial decline, divorce, suicide, crazy things, stealing, whatever. So the other thing about Europe that I think America can learn about is they've been doing this so much longer than us. We're here, they're here. So the experience and the journey, we should do a better job of following because we can prevent some of the mistakes and pick up on some of the success in a more accelerated way.
I see. That's very good. And you mentioned responsible gambling, which is something that you often speak about. You know, when you're attending iGaming events, at almost all your keynote speeches. What would a gold standard, let's call it this way, responsible gaming ecosystem look like in practice, according to you?
25 years ago, when I started, maybe a little longer than that, 30 years ago, when I first started going to conferences, both in the US and outside, there was never a discussion about responsible gambling or problem gambling. Also, just to empathize, there was never a discussion about women or Black and brown people. Every conference in the last 5 to 8 years has RG panels and diversity, equity, and inclusion panels. Okay, that's great. I am tired of talking about it. I want people to not discuss the problem. What's the solution? Now, one thing, I said it earlier, no solution is perfect. And each solution has to be nimble and provide flexibility to adapt to changing times. Every time you put a solution forward between AI and other technologies, it can adapt to that and make your solution obsolete. So you need to do a few things. You need to provide tools to explain to customers when they're going into harm's way. Why? I know 10 years ago, when the RG issue started to become sexy and operators in America had to hire RG leads, when those people came into a boardroom, all the RevSite people didn't want to see them because they thought that the RG people were going to hurt their revenue. What they didn't understand is by adapting good RG standards, education, small snippet videos, playing, pausing as you're reaching the markers of harm, slowing down, what you're doing is you're creating a more sustainable industry. Because if you start to see people that are customers of yours falling off the cliff, that's going to ultimately hurt your brand. Okay. And I put it this way because people never remember talk, they remember stories. I said at a conference in Vegas 10 years ago, I used to be just a brick and mortar casino advisor, lawyer, lobbyist. And I know back then, all they cared about was you walked in the door, are you 21 good, go? They looked at the gambling addicted customer as the VIP. Oh, so for you just lost all your money? Here's another marker. We'll give you a loan. Keep gambling. The online industry cannot afford to handle it that way. The online industry's biggest challenge is to make sure they're doing serious self-regulation, not checking a box, because other states are watching. And as the problems rise and you don't solve them, other states won't do it.
Bill, you mentioned about self-regulation. Do you think the iGaming industry is capable of self-regulation, or will the real progress always require external pressure that we have been discussing today?
I think it's a combination of both. I don't think in and of itself that self-regulation will happen without motivation. So you have the carrot and the stick, right? You have incentivizing, and then you also have penalties, right? So the let's take for example my home state of New Jersey. The DGE 3.5 years ago came out with RG standards, right?
Mhm.
Where you have to show players that have been spending a lot of time on the app, right? A pause and show them a quick 30-second video. Operators didn't want to do that. I said, "Are you crazy? That's no problem." But the problem is there has to be balance. While you're also requiring regulation, if the operators stay ahead of the regulators, they're not going to have problems. But what they should be asking the regulators to do is, look, we're self-regulating. We're doing this, that, the other thing. There's dozens of different offerings and tools. Regulator, what we need you to do is do a better job cracking down on the black market. Because as you scale down the black market, those players will come into the regulated market, and that's the benefit. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's hard.
I actually fully agree with you on that. It needs to be the blend of those two, right? So there needs to be a regulatory body that will set the standards and communicate it, and also the market needs to work with them hand in hand. But at the same time, I think right now we see this very often. Players are demanding for it. We see that players are checking the brands' websites, because we are running also a digital marketing agency, so we do a search engine optimization. I check those websites myself every day, so I see that a blog section of the brand websites are visited even more often. I see more and more players are checking those RG articles and how they can actually fight with addiction and so on. They actually look at those things themselves. So over time, probably it will also come, from the society. There will be a kind of a demand which will help shaping the industry as well. Bill, as you know, we have got a lot of people watching us from iGaming operators, especially from Europe today. So I would like to ask you, let's say if you were mentoring a new iGaming brand entering a regulated market, it can be US, for instance. What would be the top three recommendations you would tell them from day one?
Yeah, first of all, number one, when you enter a new market and you're filling out your application, your licensing application, make sure that everything on that application is the truth. That's number one. Once you tell a lie and you try to justify it, you have a black mark. That's number one. Number two, you need to have a very strong team in place, and it doesn't need to be a lot of people that understand government relations, how to deal with governments. Okay, it's not easy, and it's very different state to state, country to country. Number three, I think it's very important who you affiliate with, who you use as your ancillary services, who is your brick and mortar partner. Okay, that's all important. It's not just, a lot of people come in and say, Bill, just find me a skin, anybody. There are good skins and there are bad skins, right? So those three things, we could go on and on and on. And that's the part of the work that I do, is making sure when I represent and I'm giving strategic advisory services, you don't often realize it until you're done, and then you see somebody who didn't do it and you see the value added, right? Because a lot of people, they want to save money, just jump in with both feet, and they really don't know what they're getting into. And you see a lot of some of the mid-tier operators that have left the market. They've lost their shirt. So those are some of the things. And I think one more suggestion I have, which all of my clients that have hired me have done, okay, when entering the market from outside the US. If you want to come in, my recommendation is don't go for a small state where you think is easy. Go into New Jersey, which is the hardest state. Once you get into that state, every other state will become easy. You grow your recognition, you'll grow your valuations, because if Jersey regulates you, which is one of the toughest markets in the world, you can be regulated and licensed anywhere else. That's always my advice. I am proud of New Jersey because I not only wrote the law, but I helped draft the regulations. They do it right. And that's my advice.
Fantastic golden tips for operators watching us today. So number one, when you go with the applications, tell the truth, and then learn the government regulations, everything in the market very well, and find somebody who can actually help you, someone who has accomplished something in the past. And finally, fantastic tip here, don't go with a small state. If you go with New Jersey, everybody will see that you actually do things right because you have their license. So it means that the other states will open the doors for you as well. Amazing, Bill. Thank you so much for these golden tips for us today. And this was an incredible conversation. We talk about the US iGaming market, regulations, responsible gaming. We talk about challenges that you actually told us with stories and snippets already. And we had some real world advice that we don't hear every day. So BP3, thank you so much for sharing your time, insights, stories today with us. It's been a real pleasure for me having you on Revpanda Live. And I want to ask you, if our viewers, they would like to reach out to you and they would like to learn more about things that you're discussing, how they can actually get in touch with you.
Very easy. And thank you, Faruk, for having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your team at Revpanda Live. So my email address is very simple. It's my last name, Pascrell at PPAG. That's Princeton Public Affairs Group, just the first letter, .com. I also will be more than happy to give my mobile number out. It's +1 609 209 9993, and I am on WhatsApp.
Amazing. So we'll drop your email in the description as well, so everybody can reach out to you. And are you heading to Europe for any iGaming event soon?
Yeah, I have a couple of events in America this week and in August. And then I'll be at EGR in Laguna Beach, California, which is a wonderful event. I go every year. I've been going for 15 years now. 15 years.
Wow,
I will be coming over to Lisbon for SBC. Then I'll be going to Rome for Sigma. And then I'll be going to Malta for their RG day in early December. I'll also be at a very interesting event, which they've invited me to come speak. They're paying for me to do it. It's called TAG, the Advocacy group, which is made up of lobbyists across the US and some lobbyists in other countries. They're having their event in Charlestown, South Carolina, the first week of December. I'm going in to educate lobbyists on how to do better in the gaming space.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person again. I think next time we'll be in Lisbon for the SBC. So very happy to have you with all these flagship events that we have got in Europe. And everyone watching or listening us today, thanks again for joining us. I hope you have got some new ideas and new ways of looking at things, especially about the US market. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure that you follow us on our social media, share with your iGaming colleagues. I will see you all at the next Revpanda live session. Thank you.
Thank you.